listos?
Sí, señora.
Sí.
Cool. So a solid chunk of our questions pre-trip were about Nicaraguans' general perceptions about their environment and maybe how they relate to the environment or their environment. And we didn't want to, in our questions it almost reflects that we didn't want to make assumptions and we wanted to be open to this and explore these issues. And we had the feeling after coming back from this trip that of course people care about their environment. And it seems like when they compromise environmental purity, it's in the interest of allowing business or industry in, which definitely benefits them in other ways. People seem to be more interested in taking action against environmental issues if it directly affects their livelihood. We reflected on the people that lived in Ocampo, and of course the water issues driven by potential climate change problems reflected them directly, so they were wanting to do something about it.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe those people that lived in Managua didn't face the same reality.
And the drought, too. They didn't have any crops, so they were really concerned about their environment because it was directing them directly. Whereas in that might be very different in Managua or Leon, where it's they don't have to worry about it as much because that's not their livelihood.
We didn't see we didn't speak with too many groups that were taking action directly for environmental concerns. We met the high schoolers that were working to protect the Bosawas Preserve, and I think that was the biggest one. However, these issues of the Bosawas Preserve came up several times on their own. The environmental issues surrounding the canal project came up several times on their own. So I definitely think it's something in the public mind.
Yeah, so there was a bunch of questions on here that I don't think we learned much about. One of them was, can Nicaragua be glad that it wasn't, we did talk about that, sort of. What was the other one?
Talk about water?
The water one?
Yeah, do you want to talk about water?
Oh, yeah, sure, okay. So we talked about, the, Lake Nicaragua and, where they get their water, and we know where they got their water at the Campo, but we didn't know where the city gets their water. I don't know if any of you guys know, but we didn't figure that out. But that water is pretty scarce resource in Managua, and especially in the Campo, they're really trying to get it, and they're really worried about water pollution. I just know we didn't talk about There's a question here about Lake Nicaragua and if people care that it's polluted. And we didn't talk about if they care about it, if it's polluted, but they are worried about putting a canal in, and if that will make it even more polluted. So that answer, that question was sort of answered, but not fully. Someone asked, what is the tallest tree? We did not answer that. I had no idea what the tallest tree is. They also, I think this is my question about the impacts of the Colorado River, on the border, where does border get their water? And I don't think we talked about that whatsoever. Or how, polluted the rivers are because they're so downstream in a lot of areas of Mexico. So we didn't talk about that either, but yeah.
So we also asked a lot of questions about trash and pollution. Trash seemed to be a much larger problem along the border, on the Mexico side of the border. It was explained to us that they don't have municipal trash collection, so there's nowhere to go with it. Frannie and I were both impressed with the trash systems, or the services that they had, at least in Managua. Pretty extensive recycling and some semblance of single-stream recycling, because plastic bottles could be thrown away and then they'd be separated later.
Yeah, and also the bottles, one of my favorite things, they're always glass bottles. You didn't get a lot of cans or a lot, but you just put the glass bottles back in these crates where they would just wash them and reuse them, where they didn't even have to melt them back down and remake them. And, it just was very practical.
Yeah. The larger conversation of pollution in general seems to tie into lots of other things that we could talk about, be that politics and economics. There was a question about the correlation of the move from rural Nicaragua to urban, and we explained that by saying that large agribusiness can move in and displace workers because those places can be more efficient, and those workers are then required to move towards urban areas. So that seems to be the driver. We saw a lot of that.
Yeah.
And these agribusinesses are more likely to be reliant on chemical means of production.
And large water use and, yeah, and just energy use.
Right.
Particularly with CO2 in the atmosphere.
Right. So they're managing that and working with it, and it seems like, my perception anyway, is that Nicaragua is in a balance of working with industry to like try to promote industry and get these jobs, and not wanting to compromise environmental integrity to the point of like no return, I guess.
Yeah, and I just feel like overall Nicaragua is way more aware because there's way more people working directly with the land, or it impacts them directly. Because a lot of people in Nicaragua don't have air conditioning or like all these other things, so they feel the effects directly way more than we do.
That's what we came up with.